and Johannesburg. Now, Eskom Group CEO Dan Marokane recently marked his 100th day in office. Marokane also highlighted the fact that the country has gone 82 days without any rolling blackouts. He cited his team's competency and experience for keeping the lights on. Marokane also commended South Africans for using electricity sparingly as the utility tries to mitigate blackouts this winter. Energy expert Thomas Bergenthuin joins us now for more tips and tricks on how you can use less power this winter. Thomas, thank you so much for speaking to us on Newsnight this evening. So not only are we seeing load reduction implemented in some metros at the moment, just Johannesburg and Pretoria up here in Gauteng, but, electricity prices have increased sharply over the last few years. So consumers are looking for ways to not only reduce their usage, but to also increase their consumption efficiency. What are some of the most effective methods without compromising on quality of life, that is?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah, that's a very good question. And actually, there's so many things that we can do on a daily basis. If we look at winter, and if you look at your house, the biggest consumer of electricity is your geyser. And it's actually quite simple to reduce the amount of electricity that your geyser uses by just turning it off. And you'll still have the same amount of water that you need for your shower or your bath. That's the most simple thing you can do. Have it run for 2 hours and then that's fine. You can also automate that by installing a timer to do it automatically. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can also install an AI controller, which will learn when you actually need water and heat using minimal amount of electricity to do so.
Are there also some types of geysers that are, not just geysers, other appliances that are more energy efficient than others?
Yes, you actually, with all modern appliances, get efficiency rating. You'll see it when you buy the appliances, and you can very easily shop between ones that are more or less efficient. That's a pretty standard star rating.
Millions of prepaid electricity meters are set to malfunction in November this year as the current model becomes unsupported. And Eskom's running very far behind its own updating the meters. What should consumers with prepaid meters do to try and ensure that their devices are updated in time to make sure that they have electricity? Because, in addition to wanting to be energy efficient, we also want to try and make sure there's, constant supply.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a very good point and very important for people to make sure that they don't run out and are left in the cold, so to speak. The news is being released by Eskom per different blocks of people that are being updated with careful instructions exactly what needs to be done to reprogram their meters. So I would suggest people just keep an eye out for those announcements for their areas and then follow the instructions.
If a consumer does not see an update about their block and it's heading here towards September, October, they know the deadline of 24 November is looming, is there something proactive people can do to make sure that they get their system updated before Eskom gets around to it?
I'm sure there must be. Unfortunately, I don't know offhand what that might be, but yeah, that's definitely something that people should look into.
Okay, so we will try and get that information for our viewers. Looking at solar, there's been a huge uptake in solar and battery backup systems, not just to counter load shedding, but also to reduce costs. But there are so many factors influencing this whole sector. Availability, we know the elections and the reduction of load shedding before the elections had a massive impact on the whole solar sector and the cost of importing panels, for instance. What are some of the latest trends, patterns you're seeing in this sort of alternative energy sector?
Yeah, well, we've seen very significant price reductions in the cost of components. For example, if we look at solar panels, the prices have come down by about 60% this year alone. Batteries have also halved in price. So what it's doing really is it's making solar just so much more competitive in terms of its price as an energy source. And it's really making a lot of sense for people to actually switch to solar and to install solar and make sure that their energy is sourced from solar. And going forward, as our tariffs have to increase, we'll probably see this trend continuing as technology improves. And obviously, the lack of load shedding has hit the renewable industry quite hard. And I think it was because a lot of people in the past moved towards solar for the reason of load shedding. But in fact, the real and correct reason to do so is to reduce your cost. And now is the best time that you've ever had to do so.
How accessible is it? Because even if you're saying now is the best time and the pricing has come down significantly, we are still one of the most unequal societies. There is a massive gap between those people who have the available capital to invest in something like solar and those who simply have no money left over, not even at the end of the month, but by week 2 or 3 of the month. So looking at those hundreds of thousands of households who really live from paycheck to paycheck, is solar even something that is accessible to them with financing models?
Yeah, I mean, for the poorest of the poor, it's definitely still difficult because financing options that are available would still require some form of security from you. But for the rest of the people, the market's evolved quite a bit. It used to be pretty much cash up front for systems, and that changed to rent-to-own systems, and now it's fully rentals, which means that you don't have to put any capital down at all and never actually own the system. But as you say, that really is still out of reach of the poorest of the poor.
What about infrastructure to support the widespread uptake of residential and business solar usage? So I'm talking about ESCOM, municipalities, the kind of infrastructure that would support using solar, just in terms of getting, your solar system registered and compliant with, for instance, COJ. Are we seeing that happening easily and smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, the city of Cape Town was the first one to start with the SSEG applications, and those actually caused a bit of delay. They've streamlined the process a lot, and things are happening quite smoothly now. But it had to go through a bit of a learning curve. So, on that part of your question, yes, there is still some learning that needs to be done, but it can be solved. In terms of infrastructure, we all are aware of South Africa's lack of grid and constraints surrounding the grid. And unfortunately, solar systems still require the grid, and your house will still require the grid after hours when the sun isn't shining. And that's something that South Africa is investing in, improving the grid in the future, and which we'll have to invest in if we want to move away from coal-powered system to a more renewable system. But we need to remember that renewable systems will still require the grid.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. It's a topic we can discuss at length. So many different facets of energy usage, efficiencies, household use, businesses, renewable energies, wind, all that kind of thing. We would love to continue this discussion, but thank you for your time. That was energy expert Thomas Bergenthuin. Now, pay up or stay in the dark. That's the message from the city of Joburg.